Dawn on the American frontier always smelled of dust, dried straw, and something like the lurking of trouble. Clancy McGraw, 60 years old with a crow's nest beard and a belly round as a grain jar, woke as usual by cursing his rooster for crowing too soon. Crow, again before I opened my eyes, and it's chicken soup for breakfast. Larry, he barked, slipping on his boots with a sigh. But that morning it wasn't just the crow ruffling his brow. It was the blood. From the fence line all the way to his well, his beloved only faithful wife still with me. Clancy bent down, poked a stick into the dark red streak now dried. Not deer, not cattle. This scent's weird, like the blood of trouble. With one hand on his old rifle, Betsy rustier than a gambler's promise, he took slow steps toward the well. And then he saw him. A young Native American, his shoulders soaked in blood, slumped beside a rock near the well's edge. One hand clutched a wound the size of a popcorn cob. The other reached for the wooden bucket dangling just out of reach. His eyes met Clancy's, not fear, not hate, just one thing, thirst. A thirst Clancy hadn't seen since the drought of 1844, when the town drank only from cactus shells and cowboy hats. The young man whispered, lips cracked and trembling, "Water." Clancy froze. Part of him wanted to walk away. Another part couldn't. He eyed his rifle, then the man's desperate gaze. "Damn it," he sighed. Should have stayed in bed reading a book instead of playing savior this morning. He crouched, hoisted up the bucket of water, and handed it to the stranger. When the water touched his lips, each ragged breath seemed to glow with life. Clancy didn't know he'd just poured a cup of trouble into his own lap, and a storm was galloping toward him faster than anything he'd ever faced. The young man drained the first bucket like he'd crawled out of hell. As Clancy lowered the second, he noticed the mark wasn't from animal claws. It was a bullet wound. Close, very close, edges burned by gunpowder. Clancy frowned. "Okay, someone shot you, and you ran to my well, leaving a trail of blood straight to my doorstep. Fantastic." He looked around. The prairie was unnaturally quiet, the kind that made your skin itch. As he poured more water for the young man, he muttered, "I've lived peacefully here on this godforsaken patch of land for 12 years. No wars, no stray bullets, no corpses. Just Cattle Week coffee and sometimes Larry the damn rooster. And now feels like I'm living in a dime store novel." The native youth, silent except for that desperate water, started fading again, eyes drifting shut but still gripping his wound. Clancy sighed, lips tight. "Fine. If I'm gonna die this morning, I'll at least die as a decent man. Less decent than the mindless neighbors, but decent enough." He lifted the third bucket. This time the young man managed to sit up and drink on his own. His eyes, still tired, had cleared somewhat. Clancy sank onto an old wooden stool by the well. "You should know, if the marshals see me helping you, they won't hand me a medal. Maybe a short rope." Suddenly the wind shifted. A dusty whirlwind rose from the west, punctuated by the heavy clip-clop of hooves. Not one, not two. A group was riding in. Clancy stood up. Oh, hell. The young man jerked awake, pointed toward the sound, then made a throat-cutting gesture. Clancy swallowed hard. Thanks. I got that." The horse hooves thundered so loud Clancy felt the earth shudder underfoot. He glanced at the wounded man. "You planning to help, or am I the lead actor again?" No answer, just wine dust and hooves tearing at the ground like the apocalypse. The hooves rolled in like thunder dust, blinding. Clancy squinted, not from fear, but because grit blew into his half-finished coffee. "Last cup before I die and it gets sandy." "Well, life's got a hell of a sense of humor," he muttered, setting it aside. 6 horsemen thundered in as if chasing a soul. Leading them was a man with tangled blonde hair, curled mustache, wearing a long leather coat to his heels, a Colt nearly as big as a kettle swinging at his side. Clancy recognized him instantly. Marshal Rick Rattlesnake Deacon, the man folks said was judge, jury, and executioner. All under one cowboy hat. Deacon reined in. His horse stopped 10 paces away, close enough to see his ice-cold eyes and a hairy mole on his left chin. "Afternoon, Mr. McGraw," Deacon said, voice slow as a horror story. "I hear there's blood leading right to your well." Clancy crossed his arms, feigning ease. "Blood must be Larry, my rooster. He's ornery as hell, bites with a vengeance." One deputy smirked. Deacon didn't. His gaze swept the bloodstain near the well's stone wall. "Looks more like human blood than Rooster's, Mr. McGraw," he said flat. Clancy swallowed. Sweat pooled at his trouser seat where it's always dry this time of year. "Maybe. I hit my head fetching water. I'm old." Deacon dismounted, hand on his gun, eyes boring into Clancy's features. "You know the law. Right harboring a wanted native is treason." Behind Clancy, the Apache warrior lay still by the well. No moans, no restless breaths. Clancy forced a laugh. "All I know is my well's private property. And my ma used to say if someone falls by your well, either help them or change work." Deacon stepped closer. A deputy's hand twitched toward his holstered weapon. 3 more deputies fanned out guns, holstered fingers ready. Clancy felt his throat tighten. One wrong move and the blood would flow. Then, the impossible happened. The Apache, whom all thought dying, sat up and spoke not a groan, but words in his native tongue deep like thunder in a canyon. Deacon froze. His face drained. His hand fell from his gun as if burned. Clancy glanced at the young man, then back at Deacon. "Well, I guess you heard that. Seems this isn't just rooster blood anymore, huh?" Silence hung like desert dust after the Apache's voice. No one understood his words except one man. Marshal Deacon. His face, once ice-cold, turned the green of young banana leaves. Eyes wide, palms shaking as if he felt a snake in his pants. "Heavens. It's you," he whispered so softly Clancy had to lean in. Who's who?" Clancy asked, scanning around. "Don't like feeling like the only one without subtitles." The young man, blood still seeping from his wound, spoke clearly in English more polished than a grammar teacher's. "My name is Atsidi, son of Chief Nantan, who signed a peace treaty with Fort Winthrop. The man you've hunted for 3 days under lies." The air stilled. One deputy nearly dropped his gun. Deacon couldn't speak. Clancy frowned. "So, you're the one who made us stop night watching thanks to that treaty, and now you're hunting me like a wild dog." Atsidi nodded, then let out a wry, exhausted laugh. "They said I killed Colonel Morrison, but it was he who gave me this letter the night before he died, exposing those who wanted to destroy peace and keep selling guns to rebel tribes." Clancy cast a glance at Deacon, frozen as a lightning-struck post. "Marshal, maybe we've driven the wrong guy into a corner. I think they call this an ethical dilemma. You ought to sit, have a drink." Deacon didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Atsidi, afraid one blink would unleash a wave of truth. Atsidi slowly pulled a small blood-damp paper from his belt. "This is Colonel Morrison's letter. It names those aiding arms dealers, including folks in your office." Clancy rolled his eyes, muttering, "Impressive. Others have bombs. You've just got a ragged piece of paper and a stare." At that moment, a young deputy named Tommy, eyes on the verge of tears, stammered, I saw a shipment of missing guns on a gold prospector's wagon. The same guns blamed on the Apache." Another deputy nodded, then another. Clancy saw the group beginning to doubt the orders they'd followed, and he realized, I'm in the middle of a justice reversal, on my own land, without coffee, without a seat. Fantastic. The air thickened as molasses on sand. Deputies exchanged glances, hands brushing guns, not a team ready to fight, but a group, unsure who to shoot. Clancy, standing between the well and 7 guns, exhaled softly. "I've faced mad cattle before, but this is scarier. At least cows don't lie." Atsidi, still clutching his wound, stood, tall eyes sharp like arrow tips, voice clear. "You want proof. Here." He held out Morrison's letter, crumpled, stained, smelling of dried blood and gunpowder. Clancy hurried over, treating it like a declaration of independence. Names, dates, times, arms shipments, officials who took bribes and looked the other way. Clancy turned to Deacon. "Your name on it, Marshal, or just a circle-jerk buddy?" Deacon stiffened. Then, his hand went for his gun. "Give me that letter," he growled. For what? Clancy shot back. To burn it or eat it. Atsidi interjected, voice low yet clear as a bell. "I won't hand it over, but I propose a deal." Everyone held their breath. "Let me live till morning. Let me go to the Apache Council. I will not name any of you. If I survive, an offer, an escape." Deacon raised an eyebrow. He was weighing his own fate, and Clancy saw it. But then, young Tommy, a deputy just waking to his conscience, vaulted off his horse, 2 hands in the air. "I can't stay quiet anymore." 3 months ago, I saw Deacon receive a package from Tom Hawkins, the gun runner supplying Southern gold miners. Deacon whipped around, eyes blazing. Tommy shut up, but it was too late. An older deputy, graying hair, drew his gun, not at Atsidi, but at Deacon. "Marshal," he said slowly, "we followed you for justice, but it feels like justice isn't on your side anymore." Clancy swallowed. "Good. Very good. Folks are pointing in the right direction. Now, if they could just not shoot anyone before I finish my coffee." Deacon snarled like a wounded animal. He yanked his gun and leveled it at no one else. "Clancy, you helped him. You're complicit. You die." "First," Clancy glared. "I just gave him water. If that's a death sentence, at least let me change my shirt first." Bang! A shot rang out, but not from Deacon. Tommy, with trembling hands but steady purpose, shot the butt of Deacon's gun, sending the Colt flying like a hat caught in wind. Silence froze. Then Atsidi spoke. "I don't need you to kneel. I only need you to see who's on the right side." Another breathless pause, and from the distance hooves thundered again. Not 6, not 10. A cavalry was coming. Clancy sighed, hand shielding his brow. "If this is a tour group, I'm opening a diner this morning." From the horizon, the thunder of hooves rolled closer like a high noon storm, at first muscled and distant, then rapid, drum-like. Clancy turned to Atsidi, pointing to the dust-twisting sky. That's your folks, right?" I asked, "'cause I gotta plan cook breakfast or dig a hole." Atsidi closed his eyes, then nodded, smiling as if greeting a long-lost melody. They heard the voice. "They're coming." Deacon, now trapped by his own deputies, frothed with rage. "You fools! You think you can survive when a tribe rides into this old man's yard?" Clancy raised a hand. "Well, clarify one thing. This old man is me, and I didn't invite anyone. But if they come for him, I guess." Teas ready. At that moment, the dust wall broke, revealing a breathtaking sight: over 50 Apache warriors on horseback light armor, red and black designs glowing in the dusty sunset. But what made Clancy raise an eyebrow wasn't the number. They're not drawing weapons. They're not galloping. They're riding in parade formation. Leading them was an elder man, silver-gray hair tied with eagle feathers. Mounted like a flag-bearer, his gaze unwavering, Chief Nantan, Atsidi's father. He dismounted, eyes fixed only on his son. He stepped toward the well. No hurry, no anger. The crowd around hushed as if witnessing a sacred rite. Atsidi sank to one knee, blood still seeping. Chief Nantan knelt, placed a hand on his son's chest, whispering in Apache. No one knew his words, but everyone felt them. Clancy stepped back. His heart softened like soil after rain. "I've never seen an embrace so heavy with meaning," he murmured. After that holy moment, Chief Nantan stood, turned to Deacon, and spoke. In perfect English, Marshal Deacon. "My son says you came here to kill him." "I came to arrest a fugitive," Deacon growled. "A fugitive for revealing those profiting from others' blood," replied Chief Nantan, voice not loud but chilling. One warrior stepped forward with a leather pouch to Nantan. Inside, Morrison's letter. Evidence of secret deals between Deacon and the gunrunner. And most importantly, a list of names behind the war profiteering scheme. Chief Nantan said eyes locked on Deacon Morrison died, but he didn't die foolishly. He left proof. And just as though Late knows how to arrive on time. Deacon paled, hand trembling, and then he drew his gun. He roared, "If I go down, I'm taking one of you with me." He aimed at Chief Nantan. But he couldn't shoot. Atsidi, despite his wound, lunged to shield his father, then bang! A bullet whizzed past, hitting no one because Clancy had tackled Deacon like a sack of potatoes into the dust. The gun flew, and Clancy's punch knocked the West's most notorious marshal flat on his back. "Never point a gun at my guest," Clancy said, beard trembling with labored breath. The deputies swarmed to hogtie Deacon. Some warriors saluted Clancy as first time not feeling like a lonely old man with a well, but the man who turned the tide of war, with a bucket of water. The sun leaned toward the western red mountains, painting the plains in blazing orange and gold. Silence held the land not from fear, but respect. After Deacon and his men were handcuffed and led away, Chief Nantan slowly approached Clancy. He didn't smile. He didn't speak right away. He only stared at Clancy, long enough to look past the paunch, the faded shirt, and even the awkward humor to touch something only a war-tested soul could read, a heart that chose life. Then, with strong, steady hands, Chief Nantan placed his on Clancy's shoulder. His voice resonated solemn and slow. "You are no longer a stranger, no longer an outsider. From today, you are our brother." Atsidi stood beside him, still weary but eyes bright, translating in quivering English. "My father says what you did not for glory, not for reward, but for compassion, is what makes you a true warrior." Clancy stood silent. Eyes blinked. Something stung in his corner, no dust this time, but long-lost feeling. "Oh," he stammered, "I've never been called a warrior before, except by the neighbor's cat when I booted it off the porch." Soft laughter rippled through the warriors. Not loud, but enough to break the old man's loneliness. Then Chief Nantan signaled. The warriors led their horses into a wide circle around Clancy. One by one, they each stepped forward and touched Clancy's hand. Not a white man handshake, but a ritual of kinship. Atsidi explained, "This is how my tribe says, 'We see you. We acknowledge you.'" Clancy looked at his hands, calloused, scarred from years of shoveling, roping, raising cattle now held by hands that once wielded spears and javelins, but no longer held hatred. Finally, Chief Nantan handed Clancy something that stole his breath for a moment. An Apache spear adorned with eagle feathers and red pearls, its shaft worn by 3 generations. This spear, the chief said, once belonged to my grandfather, then to my father, then to me. And now, for the first time in history, it is given to one not born of our tribe. Clancy reached out to take it, as careful as touching history itself. I don't know what to say, except, "Thank you, and I promise I won't use it to skewer a chicken." A circle of warriors chuckled soft, real laughter like a flute through pine trees. The next morning before sunrise they departed, as though no one had ever been here. No sound, no trace, only horse hooves etched deep by the well, and an old man standing still holding the spear in the scarlet dawn. Clancy McGraw was no longer the cranky old man living alone with a rooster named Larry. He was the man who saved peace with a bucket of water and proved that, in a world full of suspicion and hate, one act of kindness can be enough to change history. When folks asked him later why he did it, he'd shrug and say, "I saw someone thirsting. That's all." Atsidi, before riding away, spoke the final words. "You didn't just save me, Clancy. You saved a whole nation from war, and you did it with a bucket of water and a heart unfrozen. Sometimes that's enough to change the whole world."